What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I am super pumped for today's city update. Honestly, I think this is my favorite one yet because I have been working on a brand new area in the city. I started working on it at the beginning of this year. I actually started planning it at the end of last year. And now in the last week or so, I've finally got a ton of work done on it. And honestly, I think it's my favorite build I've ever done. So real quick before we get in the update, I have been on a massive tear putting out rebrickable models. I just put out my third one in the last probably 45 days. And I'm running a 20% off coupon this weekend. Just use the code TheBricknPanda, just my screen name on here, and it gets you 20% off. So one of the builds I just put out was actually based on a real building from my last trip to Italy. Another one has an angled staircase and is super detailed and complex, and the other one has a full beach. So you've got a whole span of different models. So enough talking, let's get into the update.
So going back earlier this year, I laid down some basic just blue water plates, and then I laid down some burps and just kind of stacked them a little bit. Honestly, just to get a sense of scale, I really wasn't sure how everything was going to fit together and how it was all going to look. I really wanted to make sure it was like a natural kind of transition from all these buildings to something more natural in the city. So for the water, I used the same technique as the other water section of my city by the beach. And if you want to see more about that technique, check out my last video where I talk all about it. But I wanted to make sure there was a healthy amount of water here. It still needed to be proportionate to the rest of the city. I will say I kind of wish I didn't use dark blue here, but I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. I will say the blue looks really good contrasting with the color on the rocks. So overall, I'm really happy with where it's at right now. So it was at this point that I decided the bakery had to go because it was just too difficult to design around and I really didn't want to compromise on my vision. So I took it out, I laid down a bunch of Mills plates, and then I began working on the rocks. Now, the technique I'm using here is really simple. I've just used these corner burps and then a variety of slopes in dark gray and light gray. But once I got it to the right height, I capped it off with some angled plates, and then I laid out some support pillars in the back so I could start working on the structure. Now, either I lost this part of the footage or I forgot to film myself doing this, but you can see here there's this little hinge brick, and this is actually the base of a hinge door that will open into this little mountain or sort of cliffside, but we'll take a closer look at that later on. So after that, I started working on the cap for the cliff, and here you can see I have a bunch of plates laid down, and then I used some Technic bricks just to reinforce and create sort of a skeleton. I actually spent quite a bit of time working on this, trying to get these support pillars in the right place. In the end, I just went with a much simpler but different route, and we'll see that in a minute, but I did want to make sure that this top was easily removable because either I'm going to put little scenes in here and kind of make it a little display I can change out, or this is where I'm going to stash the USB splitter when I run power to this side of the table, but I just haven't decided. So at this point, I wanted to work on something a little bit more fun and a little less tedious. So I began covering up the shoreline and designing sort of this future restaurant seating area, and I'm really excited because I think the rounded edges are going to look really nice in contrast with the jagged rock work, and then tying in all that blue. I think it's just going to be a really nice little pedestrian plaza area, and I'm super excited to see it come together. Okay, so now to move on to the building. Here you can see I've actually just used the Boutique Hotel's floor as a base, and then I've just modified it a little bit and added some, structural elements in there. But keeping it in the same theme, I actually wanted to make this a hotel. So it's a build I've been wanting to do for a while, and I'm actually planning a full interior for it as well. So because where it sits in the city is really prominent for me, and I know I'm going to be able to see everything inside, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to do an interior. But let's get on with the building itself. So I'm using light nougat as the primary color, and honestly it's just because it's my favorite color, and then I'm using some light gray texturing as well as doing some coining, some dark green shutters, and really just trying to emphasize the light nougat on here. I do a lot of texturing and deterioration on my buildings, and I needed to do some here to make it interesting, but I didn't want to do so much that it really took away from the primary color. So moving on to the next side, I continue the same style of texturing and coining on the sides. And again, just trying to emphasize that light nougat. This one I added a little bit more deterioration to just because it's a big kind of blank wall. But one of my favorite elements here is this white window with these lattice shutters and then this awning. I think it just looks really nice. And for whatever reason, those shutters are super expensive on Bricklink. They're cheap on Pick-a-Brick, but I think they look really good. Now for the next side, I'm kind of calling this the main entrance to the hotel with these large stairs right here. I'm really happy with this little hand railing with the fern detail. I think it just turned out really nicely. But again, continuing the same style of coining and texture, I will say this build got pretty repetitive by the end, but I'm adding this white lattice fence, and then you can see I've got the white arch with the two ferns sticking out, and I think the detail looks really nice, adds a nice little bit of dimension. Then I have those double doors right there with the tan sign. Honestly, this is more glass than I would typically add to a building, but for a hotel, it just felt appropriate. All right, so quick look at the first floor before we move on to the second one. I think we are headed in the right direction, but for the second floor, I wanted a large terrace. So I built this fence design using Droid arms. I think it turned out really cool, and I can't wait to actually activate the patio more. Now, back to the same texturing, same coining, same kind of boring stuff. This time I'm using the white and yellow awning up here just to keep consistent. And then again, the dark green shutters just to match downstairs. Now, this wall is pretty large and blank, so again, it's pretty simple, but I do like these white outlined windows. And then to the other side, you can see, again, the white and yellow awnings. I've added these little Juliet balconies. You can see I went back and just added small little nose cones for the detail, but I think the second floor is looking really good. So now it's time to place this guy in the city, see how it's gonna look. You can see here, I've started on just a basic little hand railing for the edge of the cliff. I need to go back and, actually add some details, but I just wanted to get the actual dimensions right first. So, all right, now for the good part, let's drop this guy in the city and see how he starts to look. Now for the roof portion, you can see I just built a portion of the plate and then I added a Technic plate in the middle so I can run wires. What I can't decide is if I want this to be like a rooftop patio or a terracotta roof or some kind of combination of both. So let me know what you guys think. But one of the details I was really excited about, was kind of premature to add, is these little statuettes that I have kind of like in my cantina build. I don't know why, I just felt like I needed to add them because they looked really cool. So here you can see the build kind of sitting still very much in rough draft form, just trying to get a sense of scale and how it's going to fit within the city. This is a much bigger building than I've built compared to probably the last 10. What I'm going to do right here, you can see I'm going to continue the rock work underneath that corner plate. And then I'm not sure here, if this is going to become just a very large walkway, kind of balcony looking over into a square, or if this is going to be a walkway in between buildings. I'm not quite sure. This side, again, it's pretty blank. I'm going to be putting a large tree as well as an exterior light right there just to help kind of activate it and make it a little bit more unique. But this is the side that I really need to figure out what to do with, because as you can see, it's very much still in rough draft form. And I've really just got to figure out how I want to transition from the ground floor to that second floor. Do I want to do stairs? Do I want a hill? What is it? How is it going to fit together? And most importantly for me what are the sight lines that I'm going to see? And then going back here, you can see the ugly unfinished sides. To be honest, I do not know what I'm going to do for the facade on both of these. So if you guys have ideas, let me know. I also went back and finished some of the water off camera. You can see I went and added some cheese slopes for some waves against the cliffs. I probably should have made it a little bit more bigger and pronounced and focused less on the waves actually out in the sea. But overall, I'm really happy with the water. I think it looks really nice and everything is really starting to fit together nicely. All right, doing this in reverse order, but here is the before. You can see this big blank gap. And here is the after. You can see it is such a tremendous difference. I'm so happy to see it all finished. So a little bit of talk on the future vision. So the idea is that it's going to be like a big sort of half circle of buildings sort of terraced back, going up from the water. So I'm really excited to keep working on this. I think everything is coming together really nicely. I think this light nougat is looking well, but honestly, we have a lot of work to do here. I still have to go back and add landscaping. I've got to do all the exterior tiling. I've got 2 facades to finish and a roof. So a lot of work to be done, but overall, I think it is looking really, really good so far. Really quickly, I wanted to show you guys this little hinged door. You can see it's just a bunch of structural filler brick in there right now, but I'm really excited to go back and add some detail to this. So that being said, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.